Our scene opens with Abel sat at her harp, while Jophiel tries to find a way for them to work with one another, though they seemed out of sync. Abel and Jophiel would end up sitting in a space within Abel's head, with one of them being frightened and scared while the other was a being wrapped in fury while what resembled complete calm. Abel asked, "What did Cain and the demon do to us?" Jophiel opened its mouth to speak, but what came out sounded like a high-pitched whine with a deep bass sound, almost like an intelligible voice. Frightened, Abel quickly covered her ears with her hands as she began to cry out until she heard nothing. With Abel finally noticing, Jophiel had shut its mouth. Jophiel tried again and... "Sorry about that, dear Abel. What they have done has manipulated with some of my systems, but I should be better going forward. That and I needed to figure out a voice that your ears could withstand." Abel replied, "It's okay, I just didn't know what that was, and it frightened me is all." Jophiel spoke, "I am truly sorry for that. It wasn't my intention, Abel. But we must have a serious conversation about what is going on." Abel replied, "What do you mean? I'm so confused about what's going on. Last thing I remember, I went to my brother's trailer and we were having a chat. The next thing I know, we were in here, and it seems like I've missed a lot." Jophiel went to reply before it glitched again and shut its mouth quickly. Opening it, it said, "Abel, sorry about that. But you were entranced by the demon with your brother and brought to this train car, and then they bound us in these manacles around our wrists. This was due to the curse put on Cain by God for what he did to you through time." Abel replied, "What do you mean? Cain has never hurt me." Jophiel responded, almost trying to be sympathetic, "Oh, my dear girl, you don't even know any of your own story." Jophiel continued, "What do you remember of your beginning, Abel?" Abel responded, "I remember being with Cain and our parents, and then one day it all goes black." You could see the sadness on Jophiel's face as she heard those words, as she tried to empathize with Abel and felt great sorrow for what it would tell her next. Jophiel spoke. "That moment of black is when Cain killed you. And then God punished him for what he did. Thus is why you were both reborn and continue to be." Abel snapped as she got into Jophiel's face. Abel screamed, "What? Cain murdered me, and then God cursed him along with me. How is that even fair for God to do to me?" Jophiel remained calm as it replied, "God knows you can handle your brother better than anyone else. And in the end, God can foresee things beyond our understanding or yours." As Abel's irritation for the situation grows uneasy, Abel then asked Jophiel, "So what are you as it comes to me, Jophiel?" Jophiel would reply, completely absent of emotion, "I would say I've used your soul during times where you have perished to help God in His will, as I am one of the first of His flock." Abel again became angered and lashed out, striking Jophiel, knocking the angel to the ground. As Abel began to let out her rage, Jophiel, almost aloof, and didn't seem to think of it, and tried to get back into the seat when Abel continued to let out her rage as she pummeled the angel. After a while, Abel reached a point where she couldn't raise her arms or her hands felt sore and bloody, and fell to the ground. At the same time, Jophiel sat up, its face a distorted mess of its former perfection. Jophiel sat back in the chair, brought its hand to its face, and a light shone, returning its face to its former perfection. Jophiel asked, "Are you finished? Or do you need more time?" The angel's question angered Abel, but thought about her damaged hands, which had become weak. She decided she was finished and surrendered as she asked, "Yes, I am finished, but my question, could you do to my hands what you did to your face? I promise I won't hit you again." Jophiel thought a moment, then replied, "Yes, come here, dear girl." Abel walked up to Jophiel as Abel put her hands out in front of the angel. Jophiel waved its hand slowly over Abel's hands as Abel saw that bright light again, and within moments her hands had been completely healed. Abel rubbed her hands together, astonished at what just happened in front of her own eyes. Abel asked, "What was that light?" Jophiel replied, "It's the Lord's light. We use it to not only heal ourselves, but others while doing God's work." Abel asked inquisitively, "What work are you doing for God now?" Jophiel replied, "I do not always understand God's will, though I think we can guess it has something to do with the untold destruction that your brother and that vile demon can create." Jophiel continued, "Abel, I genuinely think us coming together as one to work alongside of one another, I truly feel that this all must be a sign from God, that we must stop Orbus and Cain's demonic plans for the greater good." The pair sat in silence as neither of them had an idea of how to get them out of their current situation. They racked their brains for what felt like hours till Jophiel brought up an idea, but stated it was a long shot in its current condition. Jophiel hoped its system could still produce telepathic messages while still having the demon's needle in the angel's temple. Jophiel would go on to explain, "I can speak to those with pure hearts. We just have to hope that my system doesn't have any more glitches, I think I heard you say earlier." Abel would reply, almost pleading, "But we at least have to try, don't we?" The pair contemplated how to determine those of pure hearts, but before they had the chance, Cain would interrupt them from outside of their headspace. Cain would give them a group of people to search for, and they would just have to fine-tune it to help themselves. Abel and Jophiel knew they would need to reach out to complete strangers and pray for luck and compassion. The pair would continue searching out individuals for Cain. Abel found few that weren't much more than depraved filth that Cain seemed to search for. Jophiel found a few beings with pure hearts, but reached out to whomever it could. Cain didn't realize the occasional person that would be reached out to, or at least they hoped that Cain didn't notice. Jophiel continued to do Cain's bidding, though one day this all changed. When the change occurred, Cain stopped giving Jophiel its targets to beckon toward the circus. After the change, Cain came around less and less, while Orbus became the one who brought Jophiel Cain's targets. At this point, Abel and Jophiel knew Orbus was more clueless than Cain, or so they hoped. Cain himself would become isolated as he began to start scrying for the locations of the names off of the wall. Cain would disappear for extended amounts of time, as he spent countless hours compiling a list of locations. As time passed, Kane would put his attentions toward going to greet his champions in person, while sending Orbus to handle the angel. This is RMG Grimbliss. Just letting you guys know that for the next few chapters, we'll be going into the champions. And this has me doing 20 drawings, if not more, depending on if some of the backstories have good enough things that I think everyone will like. Yeah, that's about it. But feel free to go and like and subscribe, and head over to Facebook, Renaissance Man Gaming on Facebook. Give you all the updates on what I'm doing pretty much anywhere. Thanks.